Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, shoot over to the Titans of Podcasts and Wrestling fan group that you can find only on Facebook. If you're a Facebook user, don't miss your opportunity to check out all different podcasts, wrestling-related news, memes, everything you could possibly want, all at the Titans of Podcasts and Wrestling fan group. And if you are on Facebook, make sure you check out Wrestler Unstoppable, a totally free wrestling video game. No more of this spending $60 to $100 every time you want to get a new version of your game. This is everlastingly free. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable on Facebook right now. Create your wrestler, join a company, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, book yourself on a pay-per-view, buy your own company. All the things that make professional wrestling what it is. Check it out at Wrestler Unstoppable on Facebook today. And while you're at it, shoot over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/ProWrestlingPodcast, where we would love to have you become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, just like Harold in St. Louis, our very first Patreon member. Thank you, Harold. It's our shout out to you today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. You'll notice that I sound a little more reserved. Had a little bit of some bumps and bruises tonight in my personal life. Real banged up. But I wanted to bring you guys the news anyways and go through the various things that have been going on. It's been a pretty crazy couple days in the world of professional wrestling. If you get an opportunity, call into the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160 and give us your questions, your comments, anything you want us to talk about or cover in an episode. We'd be more than happy to make you as big a part of the show as we possibly can, because we know that our listeners are the lifeblood of our show. So do that as soon or as often as you'd like. We'd like to get to as many of your comments as we can throughout every episode. And if you want to see what topics we're going to be discussing coming up, go to therowrestling.com, the home of the Pro Wrestling Podcast, and launched this week Pro Wrestling merchandise at the Fro Shop. Check out the Fro Shop. Anyone who makes a purchase at the Fro Shop gets a shout out on my podcast. Just shoot me a message, let me know what you got. I'll match you up and get you into our podcast as well. And anybody who purchases one of the Pro Wrestling Podcast lawn signs and post that out front with a picture to our feed, we'll absolutely get you guys onto one of our Going Live at 9:05 episodes as a special guest on our episode. So check that out. Want to get going to the news of the last few days. It's been a very hectic couple days, starting with Adam Cole. Adam Cole has signed. It's official. Adam Cole is a member of the WWE brand. Now, obviously, it seems as though WWE is really focused on putting together this Ring of Honor stable in NXT. So I fully expect Adam Cole to go there to begin. But the exciting thing here is that WWE is really loaded with talents on that brand that are former Ring of Honor or Impact Wrestling talents, and it makes it so that we're going to have a constant funneling for the next several years of premium talent that have never been on the main roster who will eventually make a leap to the main roster. And that holds the promise of some amazing WrestleMania moments and key matchups that we've never seen on WWE programming before. So this is a very exciting time to be a fan of Ring of Honor Wrestling, the alumni of their group, and of what WWE's been doing, because they've been signing people that they really needed to sign. This is an excellent get for WWE. I want to get to the G1 Climax. The finals have occurred. So as predicted, Tetsuya Naito won Block A and Kenny Omega won Block B. Of course, the two met the following night, the last night of the tournament, and as predicted, Tetsuya Naito walks out of the tournament as the winner of the G1 Climax 27. He will go on to face Kazuchika Okada for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship at Wrestle Kingdom. Now, I had predicted that Kenny Omega would take on Cody for the IWGP United States Championship at Wrestle Kingdom, but now the word is that Kenny Omega may be set up for a feud with Kota Ibushi, and that the Cody feud will be postponed a bit. I actually don't like that. Kota Ibushi to me is not established enough to be in one of the quote-unquote main event style matches at Wrestle Kingdom. I don't believe that he's prepared for that. I think that Cody versus Omega has a lot of backstory already. It's something that fans want to see, and it would add some real interesting, it would put a whole new layer to the IWGP United States Championship that they're trying to use to foster an American audience for New Japan Pro Wrestling. I just think that would be a better booking scenario, but we'll have to wait and see what they do. But as far as the winner of the G1 Climax, Tetsuya Naito, going on to challenge Kazuchika Okada. I have other things, because I write these episodes as things happen throughout the week, and there are a few things I want to get to, but I don't want to go a moment further without addressing the Ric Flair situation. For those who do not know, Ric Flair has been hospitalized. He went in yesterday. He had emergency surgery. He was put into a medically induced coma. The initial thought was it was all heart related. It came out after the fact that it was actually colon related, that he had a blockage that created a situation where he had kidney failure, and now he is on kidney dialysis, and they're hoping that they can get the kidneys working again and that he'll be all right. But he is right now in critical condition in the hospital. So thoughts and prayers to the entire Flair family. I know Charlotte was in China and flew home to be with her father. She's the one who put out the updates. It's not a great situation for Ric Flair to be in, but he is a fighter. He has always been a class act fighting champion kind of guy, and he lives that role despite the fact that it's a character on television. He always lives that in his personal life, and I'm hoping Ric Flair never stops fighting for this. This is, for me personally, one of my all-time heroes, one of my all-time greats, one of my all-time favorites, and my prayers have been with Ric Flair from the moment I read that on the news feed. So if you're a giant Ric Flair fan like myself, by all means, please send him some love, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Shoot some messages to Ric Flair. I'll never forget when they did a conversation on one of the DVD retrospectives they did on Starrcade. There was discussion about when Magnum TA, Terry Allen, the guy who coincidentally on our previous podcast episode was not allowed to go into Disney World with his nephew or his grandkids, but that aside, I remember Ric Flair saying that when he got into his accident, his Porsche accident going around a dogleg curve, that he was the next megastar for the National Wrestling Alliance. And Ric Flair made reference to all the fan mail that arrived at the hospital for Magnum TA, 20,000 letters or something of that nature. This is Flair's time. So if you're a Ric Flair fan, shower him with the love and appreciation that you have for him. I think he's earned it with all his contributions to the business, and I think there'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who's had the longevity and has made such a huge footprint on the business as a whole as Ric Flair. Moving on from Ric Flair, I'm going to talk about Alberto El Patron, another huge story this week. Patron has been stripped of the Global Force Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship. It's a little weird for me because everything says that he did nothing wrong in this scenario, that Paige is the one who had the issue. She's the one who's being brought up on charges. He's been cleared of everything. Now they're saying that Global Force Wrestling is concerned about his behavior going forward. Well, at the end of the day, he did nothing. If this was the National Football League or the NBA or something like that, for NFL fans, Ezekiel Elliott's got a 6-game suspension that he's appealing because the evidence that was out there didn't result in a charge, so he feels he shouldn't get a 6-game ban. Well, Alberto El Patron, not only was he never charged, he was never even the focus of the investigation, really. They asked questions, they realized it was Paige, and they left Patron alone. So I actually have a problem with him, 1, still being suspended, and 2, being stripped of his championship. Absolutely ridiculous. I think it sends the wrong message. But GFW, they're notorious for doing exactly the wrong thing. Johnny Mundo, speaking of Global Force Wrestling, looks like he will be making a move and could be headed to Global Force Wrestling in the very near future. He wrestled at their house shows, had a great turnout for that, a great performance for them, and now it looks like he may be headed to GFW on a more regular basis. And what I think here is it's an opportunity to elevate his character into a world champion contender now that the company is going to need somebody to replace Alberto El Patron, at least in the short term. I expect that Patron at some point, if he comes back to the company, would put in a great position, but we'll have to wait and see how that works out. But in the meantime, it'll be interesting to see how they use Johnny Mundo. Is he going to come in to be a mid-carder, or are they going to push him to the top of the card like Lucha Underground has, where he's currently the Lucha Underground heavyweight champion? So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Very exciting to see that. The only frustration for me is I was really hoping to see him go back to WWE sooner rather than later. This could only postpone that return a little longer. Asuka has been talking about her post-NXT TakeOver Brooklyn agenda, and her agenda is clear. She thinks that after NXT TakeOver, she'll be making a transition to either Raw or SmackDown, and that she'll be collecting another championship. At no point in her statement, she put this out on Twitter the other day, nowhere did she say anything about losing the NXT Women's Championship. I think much like Kevin Owens when he was NXT Champion, she wants to come to the main roster with that Women's Championship belt, which I think would be a really cool way to lend credibility and credence to the NXT Women's roster while transitioning Asuka to the main roster. I don't know if they'll make her heel or face. I think logic would dictate that she'll probably be a heel, but I think there's a lot of people who would love to see her wrestle as a face on either SmackDown or Raw. I think she would bring a lot of legitimacy to whichever show she debuts for. Sami for Syria is in the news. Sami Zayn, for those who don't know, is a Syrian immigrant. He came from Syria. His parents came from Syria, and he created a campaign, one of those crowdfunding campaigns, to raise money for a mobile medical unit for Syria, for Syrian refugees. To my surprise, probably shouldn't be, but to my surprise, the largest contributor to the effort was Kevin Owens, his in real life good friend, and he has reached his limit, his goal. He will be sending enough funds to create a mobile medical unit. So congratulations to Sami Zayn and Sami for Syria, the project. What an awesome humanitarian effort for Sami Zayn, and what a cool moment for the world of professional wrestling to be able to give back in such a unique way. Pete Dunne, the WWE United Kingdom champion, is in the news this week. He was working a house show, and at this house show for Progress Wrestling, got busted open something fierce. 11 stitches to close the wound. He ended up missing some other matches. It's not a good situation for WWE when they've got so much money invested in a guy, for him to be getting hurt to this level on an independent show, and then it makes it harder for them to showcase him on their own programming. I think that WWE needs to figure out what they're doing with the United Kingdom talent and then move forward with the plan. If you're not going to do anything, end the division now, bring these guys in, put them on NXT or 205 Live or wherever you would like, but stop wasting their talent, because right now that's what's happening. You know, Pete Dunne is a great talent. Tyler Bate, Wolfgang, Trent Seven, these guys are solid performers. They need to be in front of bigger crowds and a focal point of WWE programming to foster more awareness of the UK product, and WWE is dropping the ball with this right here. So hopefully they'll figure something out and get it going in the short term and really give that brand a chance to grow. As of right now, no plans still for the United Kingdom programming to appear on WWE Network. Very frustrating. We've been waiting since January. It feels like this championship was created willy-nilly and had no plans that really had teeth to go with them, and now we're just kind of waiting, and it's kind of a shame for Pete Dunne, because I'm sure he'd love to showcase his talents on a much bigger stage. Other injury news: Scott Dawson from the Revival. First, we had his tag team partner go down to the busted jaw. Now Scott Dawson tore up the muscle in his arm. He's had surgery. He's going to be out 4 to 6 months. The Revival just can't seem to buy a break. They were supposed to face the Hardys at SummerSlam. Obviously, that is off now. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the Hardys. But Dawson and the Revival in general, really, they need a break here. They need something to happen and go their way. This is just setback after setback, and Vince McMahon does not have a lot of tolerance when that happens. And I don't want to see a great team like the Revival get shelved or pushed down the card because of these horrible freak incidents. It's really kind of concerning for a wrestling fan who is dying to see the Revival in a premium tag team feud have to keep seeing these setbacks. So hopefully, well wishes to Scott Dawson. We hope he gets back quick as possible. We would like to see the Revival actually get the spotlight that they've earned and deserve at this point. Speaking of talents that deserve the spotlight in WWE, I'm talking about Dalton Castle from Ring of Honor. It was rumored earlier this year that he had re-signed with Ring of Honor and that was going to remove the possibility of going to World Wrestling Entertainment. But apparently, Dalton Castle's contract was only a short-term arrangement. It's coming to an end very soon, and now he would like to explore his opportunities, what his options are. And WWE was rumored to be very much interested in Dalton Castle previously, so to be curious to see if they make an overture to him as soon as his 90-day no-compete clause expires with Ring of Honor. I think he'd make a fantastic addition to the Raw roster. I think he would be perfect to pair with Goldust with all the fruitiness that he has going on, and the fact that they're trying to transition him into a managerial role. So we'll have to see how this plays out. But Ring of Honor better start forking over some cash, because they're losing way too many premium talents to WWE. This is becoming a trend here where Ring of Honor is like their new NXT. They train the people, they move them over to NXT. NXT moves them to the main roster. That seems to be the transition of pro wrestlers' careers lately, and I don't want to see Ring of Honor affected constantly by the loss of talent to WWE. It's kind of scary for their brand. Speaking of, Jay Lethal was talking about whether or not he's had contact with WWE, and to my shock, awe, and surprise, he has claimed that WWE has never, at any point in time, contacted him about coming into their corporation, which I think is a huge misstep on WWE's part. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. WWE, if they haven't contacted him, it just further reinforces what fans believe all along, that they're out of touch with what fans really would love to see, which people would give anything to see Jay Lethal come into WWE. He'd be a great addition to like the New Day. Can you even imagine Jay Lethal going back together with his former tag team partner Xavier Woods, formerly Consequences Creed? It would be awesome, and it's something I hope we get to see at some point, but not if WWE doesn't start making some kind of overture towards the guy. More Ring of Honor news: the Young Bucks. Apparently, they have wrapped up their dealings with New Japan Pro Wrestling, at least for the foreseeable future. They even went on Twitter and offered a farewell to New Japan after they lost the IWGP Junior Tag Team Championship over the weekend to Kazuchika Taguchi and Ricochet. So now they're free of their New Japan commitments to be focusing on Ring of Honor and the independents. I'm hoping that this is a catalyst to future opportunity with World Wrestling Entertainment. Now, what I really like to see WWE do is create a Cruiserweight Tag Team Championship if and when they ever do get an opportunity to bring in the Young Bucks, because I think they would be a valuable asset to building the Cruiserweight brand. More former Ring of Honor talent and Impact Wrestling. Mike Kanellis, apparently, if anybody hasn't noticed, he's virtually invisible on SmackDown. He had that little flurry for a moment where he wrestled Sami Zayn, but then he lost right away in the rematch, and he's been pretty much off television since, and it's because in the back there's a lack of push for him because WWE officials are very frustrated that he signed his contract 2 months before debuting with the company, and then even though he signed his contract, they said it was like he sat at home and was like eating Twinkies the whole time. He came in horrible shape from what they decided that he let himself go for those 2 months, and now they're very frustrated with him that he doesn't seem as committed to the position that's supposedly his dream job. So hopefully Kanellis can get back in their good graces and get his push going again, but in the short term he's definitely seeing a lack of push because of his approach to his fitness and his appearance in his time leading up to his debut with WWE. Let's do a quick Raw review. The Raw went down last night, decent show. Ambrose and Rollins at the beginning of the show finally getting to a situation where they have an explosion. They start beating the snot out of each other. Leads to a match later on in the show. And Ambrose and Rollins end up doing the fist pump, and the match is set up for SummerSlam. They're going to challenge for the Tag Team Championship. I love this. I think it's a great angle. I think it's something we all saw coming. And the only drawback to it is at some point they'll have to break up the band again, and that's going to lead to another Ambrose-Rollins feud, which we've seen 347 times. But in the short term, I think it's a good way to take two premium World Championship level talents and get them busy doing something so they don't have to crowd the World Championship picture. If you think about it, we got a fatal four-way and neither one of these guys is involved. That's kind of impressive because that shows you how deep the Raw roster is right now with World Championship caliber talents, especially when you consider the fact that Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor are also not in the match. Sasha Banks won her match against Nia Jax in very convincing fashion and will go on to face Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam. I still expect Bayley to show up at SummerSlam, cost Sasha Banks the championship, and go heel. That is my prediction. But in the meantime, this should be an interesting match. Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss for the who know how many time. Kind of getting tired of seeing that match as well. But it is what it is. They're doing the best, I guess, with what they can do when they have such a limited female roster. This is where the brand extension doesn't always work, because right now SmackDown has significantly better female talent, but they haven't been showcasing it the same way or as well. Raw has limited talents. They've been doing a good job of showcasing what they have, but they don't have a lot of options. Now, they started to flirt with it a little bit this week because they gave Emma an opportunity to go against Mickie James. Good match. Mickie James wins. But it would be nice to see them be a little more creative with the women on the Raw roster as opposed to what they've been doing on SmackDown, where they've been showcasing the snot out of them, but it hasn't been getting over with the fans as much. It's very bizarre. Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor had their moment. They actually fast-forwarded their match. Instead of doing it at SummerSlam, they do it here on Raw. I think this was a way. Bray Wyatt picks up the win. Finn Balor going for the coup de grace and missing and getting put into his sister Abigail for a Bray Wyatt win. This was a way to kind of separate the Finn Balor character and the Demon King. So now, Bray Wyatt covers Finn Balor in blood, and now the Demon King will be at SummerSlam for his match against Bray Wyatt. I think this was a really stupid thing to do. He gave away Bray Wyatt versus Finn Balor for free on network television. It should have been saved for the pay-per-view. Now we've kind of seen it. Even if Balor wins at the pay-per-view, what did you do this for? Just so you can get a nifty entrance? You could have done that without all this. Instead, we've now seen Bray Wyatt beat Finn Balor clean. Finn Balor will probably pick up the rematch, and then who knows where they're going to go with this after that. It seems like they don't book far enough ahead, and this was very disappointing. Big Cass comes out. He's running down about his match and what's going to happen to Enzo. Enzo is out. He's talking about the Big Show, and he and Show show up, and they're going to the ring to fight Cass, and Show gets in the ring, and he gets attacked by Gallows and Anderson. This whole segment was god-awful and terrible. Now, the rumor right now is that Enzo may be slated to go heel at the pay-per-view. He'll throw some kind of weapon from the Shark Tank down. Cass will get a hold of it, waffle the Big Show, and reunite with Enzo. Whatever. I think this is one of the most horribly played out feuds. This is almost as bad as Goldust and R-Truth. This is just boring. I don't want to see it anymore. Move on from it. Reunite Enzo and Cass if that's what you're going to do, and get them doing something of value and substance. And what the heck are you doing with Gallows and Anderson? They're just fighting with everybody, and they don't win anything. Give them something to do. This is one of the best teams in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and you've given them nothing. You give them a short title run because you kind of had to. Otherwise, you're wasting these guys too. That's the problem with WWE right now. They're so deep with talent that they waste guys, and they're wasting Gallows and Anderson. Neville and Akira Tozawa, one of the highlights of Raw. Akira Tozawa getting his championship match ahead of SummerSlam, picking up the win and being crowned the new Cruiserweight champion, defeating Neville. It was kind of a shocking finish to the match. Really cool celebration for Titus Brand worldwide. Neville obviously is esteemed. As a matter of fact, tonight on 205 Live, I know I'm jumping ahead, but that's fine. At 205 Live, Akira Tozawa announces Neville wanted his rematch at SummerSlam. The match will happen. So at SummerSlam, Akira Tozawa will take on Neville in a rematch. But I'm really happy to see that title transition to somebody. Neville can't be this unbeatable. Not for this long. Not when he was a mid-carder, when he was on the Raw regular roster. He comes back and now he's an unstoppable king of the cruiserweights. He needed to lose that championship. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins it back, but he needed to lose it at least for a little while. I'm going to go over to SmackDown, do our SmackDown breakdown. Not a lot that I want to talk about here, and I'll tell you why. Well, first off, India's Independence Day celebration was a complete slap in the face to a lot of the Indian listeners. I've already gotten emails, and the show only went off the air 2 hours ago, that they were offended that this guy who's a Canadian, who may have roots to India, but he's a Canadian, keeps pushing this India button, and it's really frustrating to some people. They take it offensively, and I think that WWE needs to be careful. They should actually be acknowledging his Canadian heritage as well, just so that you don't upset that segment of the fans. You could do it where he's an Indian Canadian. That is possible. Obviously, he lives. So I think you would offend less people. But when I'm getting fan mail and questions about, why is WWE doing this? And I got this from 3 different people in only the last 2.5 hours. So yes, if you were one of the 3 that sent the emails in, just for all 3 of you, if you send me an email, try to give me a name so I can give you a shout out, because I love getting your questions and I love giving you shout outs. But those 3 people, thank you for sending the question. But that's the thing, I'm with you. I agree. I don't know why they're doing that. I think it's a bad idea. I think they should be acknowledging his Canadian heritage and his Indian heritage and pushing it that way, instead of trying to cram his Indian heritage down your throat, because it does seem like it rubs some people the wrong way. I want to talk about Rusev and Randy Orton, because there's been like no build up for their match at SummerSlam, and somehow tonight, when Rusev beats Chad Gable, which I'll get to that in a second, when Orton comes out of nowhere and hits the RKO, it was perfect. It really got me excited about their match on Sunday, and I had no interest whatsoever before that RKO. Randy Orton is one of the best in the business at coming out of nowhere, hitting his move, and making an impact, and this was cool. It really set the tone for the Rusev-Orton match at SummerSlam. I actually expect that match to get kicked down to the kickoff show or something, just because they got to put something down there, but I actually can't wait to see that match now. And on the topic of Chad Gable, can WWE please stop feeding him to Rusev unless you're going to have him somehow upset Rusev? Because you have an opportunity, a guy who could really go in the ring. He's like a young Kurt Angle, and you're burying him with Rusev, and I hate it. If you're not going to use him effectively on the SmackDown roster, put him on 205 as well. Do something where these guys don't get buried all the time so that their careers are pointless. You can bring him up to the main roster to do nothing with him. Ty Dillinger, where's he been? You know what I'm saying? Mike Kanellis, what's he doing? Dolph Ziggler's not even on the brand right now because they're going to repackage him. You bring all these guys to the roster and then you don't do anything of substance with them. I don't need every guy to be in a championship match, but God, put Chad Gable out there with Dolph Ziggler and let him pick up a win. It'll help his character to get the rub from Ziggler. It'll help him get anything of substance rather than getting beaten down by Rusev twice now. Absolutely ridiculous. What a waste of a great guy like Chad Gable. And finally, John Cena and Jinder Mahal face off for the first time since Mahal won the World Championship. Decent. I actually enjoyed the match. I thought the match came off really well. John Cena hits a couple AAs at the end, including one off the second turnbuckle, goes for the pin. He gets jumped by Baron Corbin, and then, Corbin lays him out with the briefcase. Corbin leaves the ring, and what was interesting to me here was if you watch Corbin, he's totally focused on Cena. You can actually see in his eyes when he notices Mahal is laid out in the ring. Corbin looks at his briefcase, goes back to the ring, and he's cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase. This is the big news of the night that Baron Corbin has cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase. He gives the referee the briefcase. They announce the match. He's waiting for Mahal to stand up to start the match, and the whole time, here's the flaw. He's waiting, and you could see him 4 times look to the right and know that John Cena is trying to climb up on the apron. So as soon as the referee rings the bell, he runs over and he hits Cena in the face, and Jinder Mahal runs over and rolls him up for a pin. 1, 2, 3, and the Money in the Bank briefcase has been wasted. Baron Corbin has cashed in and been pinned by Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal retains, and there is no more Money in the Bank briefcase for the men for the rest of the year. What a waste of a great pay-per-view opportunity. It's just total garbage. Baron Corbin should have held that briefcase till January, cashed it in like a New Year's Evolution type of thing, or at the Royal Rumble or something. This was worthless, but it's WWE. They're good at doing worthless stuff. Please don't forget what I said at the onset of the show. We now have the Fro Shop. So go to frowrestling.com, check out the Fro Shop, and see if there's any apparel in there you would like to show your support for the Fro Wrestling Podcast. And if you place an order, please let me know so I can match up your order and give you a proper shout out on our episode. And anybody who grabs one of our lawn signs and puts it out, man, you're going live at 9:05 with me on a Saturday night. Not this Saturday. This Saturday I will not be doing going live at 9:05. I will be doing a prediction show on a different night, but I will not be doing going live at 9:05 this Saturday night because I will not be here this Saturday night. So keep that in mind. I will get you guys a prediction show for SummerSlam, and then after that, we'll be back to our regular going live at 9:05 Saturday night episodes the following Saturday. If you get a chance, shoot over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast. Become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family. We'd love to have you. Help you get on a show with us. Do an episode with us as well. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us again in the next one. We'll run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects we use throughout today's show. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to www.frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the page. And to AlleyRepair.com, contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all of your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. Be sure to shoot over to our website at frolifeplanning.com if you have any needs in the world of higher education. That means career, college, or university. Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.tsjsports.com for the latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. Until next time, take care, everybody.